Hello, and welcome to Cricket House Gaming. Here at Cricket House Gaming, we like to explore the gameplay of simulation games, usually through a series of Let's Plays. In this episode, we will continue to explore the gameplay of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a political sim that lets you choose the role of a world leader and govern a country. If this sounds like something that you would be interested in, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Democracy 4 is by Positech Games. This game is in early access, so this game is not yet complete, and the gameplay may have bugs. We are presently in version 1.37, which was released on August 30th of 2021. So let's get into our fourth year of our second term. You cannot run more than 2.5 terms in the US government as president, so I'm wondering how this game is going to handle this. Our GDP is looking good. Our health is not looking so good. It seems that we have a serious pollution problem, and this is leading to our health problems. Education is up. Unemployment is roughly about the same. Crime is non-existent, and poverty is close to being non-existent. Let's look at this pollution issue. Without enough measures in place to regulate what gets pumped into the air, we end up having high levels of pollution. This affects our health levels and quality of life. Not surprisingly, the environmentalists are especially upset. I have been working on environmental policies, so I don't know what's going on. We have LGBT lessons in school. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Sex education in school is always political football, and now it's back in play as an issue of educating children about the existence of same-sex couples and relationships is hitting the news. You have to take a stand on whether or not to support LGBT topics in school lessons. Support LGBT teaching. The whole point of school is to educate and prepare children for the real world, and obviously same-sex relationships are part of society. Imagine the point of view of a child who questions their own sexuality. Surely it's best for them to learn the truth from school teachers without pressure from religious leaders of parents with extreme views. Oppose LGBT teaching. Are children not overwhelmed and confused enough about sex and relationships without us introducing extreme liberal propaganda about gender fluidity into the mix? School is not the place to be bogged down in the issues, and school children are too young to be questioning their gender anyways. I'm going to support LGBT teaching because if you educate the children, if they encounter it in the real world, then they won't react poorly. Also, it might help them if they're questioning, if they have a place where they can talk about it openly and supportively. Alright, the liberals are liking this, about 11%. The youth like this at 6%. The conservatives don't like this, -15%, as do the religious people. We have a situation that's imminent. Our data is showing that we will have a potentially bad situation, real estate bubble on our hands if we don't act soon. Some citizens prefer to own their own homes, but the cost of housing is such that the large portion of population live in rented accommodation. State housing is provided at a reduced rate to those who cannot afford to pay the market rate. This can be expensive to fund, but the social benefits are also significant. I'm not sure if that's going to help the real estate bubble. Polls report. The polls are optimistic. If the election was held tomorrow, we suspect we would get 100% of the vote. Economic forecast. Good news, the global economy is doing well and is having a positive effect on our GDP. Budget report. We currently have a minor budget deficit of $21.37 billion, but this is no cause for major concern. So let's get in to see what we can do. Health is an issue because of pollution. Let's look at pollution. Take a look at the environment. Clean air subsidies. We can't really raise this much more. Maybe we can do a campaign for pollution. Illegal limits on exhaust fumes help reduce air pollution, especially in cities, but it's unpopular with motorists to look upon yet more bureaucracy and taxes. I'm going to implement this. Costs 8 political capital, and we're trying to see pollution. We don't have situation pollution. We'll just look at CO2 emissions. We will raise it to high right about there, and we will apply the changes. We have 8 political capital to spend. Pollution controls. This is good. It's not popular with the vote, but it doesn't matter. We'll do major fines to 2. We'll apply the changes. We have 6 political capital, so we've done 2 things with pollution. I don't really know how to address the real estate bubble. State housing. Some citizens prefer to own their own homes, but the cost of housing is such that a large portion of the population live in rent accommodation. State housing is provided at a reduced rate to those who cannot afford to pay the market rate. This can be expensive to fund, but the social benefits are also significant. Let's do 2 about median. Apply the changes. We have 3 political capital to spend. I don't know what else we can do. Carbon capture and storage. That's not really pollution, but let's see. A variety of engineering solution to the capturing of carbon dioxide emissions can reduce climate change, from direct air capture to methods involving capture at the source from existing fossil fuel power stations. Try that. We could do it to 3. Let's apply the changes, and we will be at the end of our first term. So let's hit that button. We are now in the second term of our 4th year as president. Oh, it looks like education is up. Health stopped declining. Gig economy is taken off. Many of our citizens are now working on part-time, 0 hours contract basis. 4 voter perceptions. There's a problem in the way voters perceive you as a leader that needs to be addressed before the next election. We are not reducing these things, and that's probably why I thought we did the prison regime. Food stamps we did. Single-use plastics ban. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Shock at the amount of plastic pollution in our water supply, our oceans, and even the air we breathe has led to calls from scientists to ban single-use plastics entirely to get rid of the problem of plastic pollution under control. Ban single-use plastic. This is absolutely ridiculous that we allow companies to use plastic packaging that will be used only once, but will take hundreds of years to break down. Even then, it may end up in our water supply. Other materials are available, and only government legislation will persuade companies to do the right thing and swap to more sustainable products. Allow single-use plastic. This sounds like an easy crowd-pleasing change, but the impact on the industry would be massive. Like it or not, we got used to the idea of cheap single-use plastic in many ways of our life. A ban could cause immense cost and regulatory hell for our small businesses and be an economic nightmare. Meanwhile, foreign companies will use them as normal. I don't believe that foreign companies will use them as normal. A lot of foreign countries are starting to move away from single-use plastic. Also, the islands of plastic in the ocean is ridiculous. I'm up on my soapbox right now. I'm banning single-use plastics because I did live in a time before single-use plastics, and we could easily come up with some solution. We have a lot of smart people who are innovative, and they could come up with something to change single-use plastic. Plastic bag income tax has gone up 100%. Environmentalists are 6% happy. Capitalists are 5% unhappy, and the liberals are 8% unhappy because, they want to use a plastic bag. You're not the one to tell them what to use. Ooh, look at this. We currently have a minor budget deficit of $2.78 billion. This is not cause for major concern. I'm thrilled about that. Our cabinet report, loyalty of your ministers can best be described as trustworthy. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be fair. Economic forecast. Good news. The global economy is doing well, and this is having a positive effect on our GDP. Polls report. You are popular with the majority of voters. We predict we would get 100% of the vote in the election. Situation is imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Gridlock on our hand if we do not act soon. I thought we were cutting down on the amount of cars being used. Vertical farm subsidies is causing traffic congestion. Right now we have a gridlock problem. Policies. Transportation. Congestion charging. In many large cities, the number of cars traveling in each day is simply unsustainable. Although a fairly blunt instrument, simply charging through a number of plate recognition every vehicle that enters the city each day has proven to be an effective way to reduce congestion in extreme cases. I'm going to do this because while it will cost us money, it will raise us money, and it will reduce traffic congestion to implement this. I'm doing it all the way, and I'm applying changes. Maximum. Bam. We only have 1 point left, but we did do something with gridlock. Pollution is still blinking at us. Pollution controls. We are at the maximum we can be at with pollution control. Can't do any more pollution controls than what we have. It's telling me I can, but I don't believe it. We could do car emissions. We can't. We could lower it, but we can't raise it. We're at our maximum with telecommuting initiatives, so we can't do anything with that. We only have 1 point to spend. I'll do food stamps. We are at the end of our second term in our 4th year as president. I'm hitting that button. Let's see what happens. Oh, a native species is extinct. Highly visible native species of animal has been declared extinct. Erosion of their natural habitat and poaching are to blame. Government's inability to protect our nation's natural resources has enraged environmentalists. Voters have noted your reversal of position regarding pollution controls, and this has affected their perception of your trustworthiness. Policy flip-flop. We have a new major party donor. Your fundraising efforts have managed to attract a new wealthy individual to donate to your future campaign fund. Make sure you keep this donor happy and pay attention to the groups they sympathize with. If donors become unhappy, there's a chance you will lose your vital financial support. Well, it doesn't really matter. I can't really run again. We're not trustworthy. We're a strong leader. We're not really compassionate. Situation is imminent. Our data is showing we have potentially bad situation, bureaucracy on our hands if we do not act soon. I'll lower this a little bit and apply changes. Elections are drawing near. Currently have 22,238,120 26 members of the Party for Change. Our party membership is the largest by a most notable margin. Good news, the global economy is doing well. This is having a positive effect on our GDP. Polls report your government is popular amongst the electorate, and we estimate a poll rating of 100%. I'm going to do some reforestation. Reforestation is a measure to combat CO2. Tree planting is relatively uncontroversial. However, some campaigners suggest that this is treating the symptom and not the cause, and that CO2 should be reduced at the source, not captured afterwards. Well, I'm trying to reduce pollution here. I'm going to spend some money like crazy. And look where we are. We want to reduce pollution, and I'm going to apply those changes. We still have a problem with this, which has to do with pollution. We did some reforestation. I suppose I could tax the tobacco. Tobacco tax. Despite failure of tobacco companies to admit it, there's a good reason to believe that smoking has negative effects on the health. This is used as a justification for taxing tobacco. Cynics point out the government benefits hugely from a tax on a product supposedly against. Health campaigners encourage the tax as a way to encourage more healthy population. I am applying that, yes. I'm using 8 political capital. I have 5 political capital remaining. Rent controls. An alternative to state housing is a system where the state will regulate private rental market in a bid to ensure the supply of affordable housing for all, even without the private sector. Capitalists will naturally see this as a distortion of the free market that will prevent enough homes from being built, whereas supporters will say it prevents exploitation of the poor by greedy landlords. I'm going to implement this. We'll try rent controls. I've got 1 political capital remaining, so I could do something with tear gas. Tear gas is a great way to control angry crowds, but it can have health effects and is seen as a tool of authoritarian regimes. Tear gas is generally only used as a last resort. I don't believe that. I've seen tear gas being used in peaceful protests against people who weren't doing anything. Let's apply these changes. We are at 0. We are going to click this button. It will be the 4th quarter of our 4th year in our 2nd term. Let's see what happens. GDP is up. Health is up. Poverty is down. Poverty is almost non-existent. Look at that. Crime is non-existent. I didn't get rid of unemployment. Voters have noted your reversal on regarding the welfare fraud department. I don't even care at this point. Cynical voters. Changes in the policy reforestation so close to the election has made some voters cynical about your party. I don't care, we had pollution. Ban non-LED light bulbs. There's an argument policy question that requires your immediate attention. LED light bulbs are incredibly efficient, more so than compact fluorescent and dramatically more than incandescent bulbs. There are calls to ban the sale of older bulbs to encourage everyone to switch to LEDs in order to reduce energy usage and help fight climate change. Ban non-LED light bulbs. Why do we have to ban things? Most people simply are not aware how far LED bulbs have come and how much energy they save over a lifetime. They have been available for years, but the uptake is slow. The ban on older tech bulbs is the fastest way to get people to adopt new technology, which will be easier way to make progress reducing CO2 emissions. Refuse the ban. It's not really that long ago that compact fluorescent bulbs were the new thing, and then suddenly there was a pressure for everyone to change again. Not only that, the actual energy cost of lighting is already very low. It just adds more government regulation for a very real gain. If the government wants to tax CO2 production, fine, and let the consumer make their own decisions. I'm not banning light bulbs. I think consumers should make their own choice. Environmentalists aren't happy. The liberals are fine, and the liberals like us more at 8%. The capitals like us at 5%. It's a light bulb. Make your own decision about light bulbs. I'm not going to have the government step in and light bulbs. The election is almost upon us. We might want to take the opportunity to improve our support by making manifesto promises to the electorate. Look at where they were. Wow, that's way down. Perceptions. They don't see me as compassionate or trustworthy. Liberals I do need some support from. Poor, I've been pouring my heart into your systems. I'm going to try to work with the liberals, and I'm going to try to work with the wealthy. I'm doing a speech using my political capital for no reason whatsoever. The capitalists are like, hey, this is really great stuff. The liberals are like, oh my god, this is the best speech I've ever heard in my life. Keep talking, dude. And the wealthy are like, why are you quoting us? The liberals are up 15%, the conservatives are down 5%, the socialists are down 15%, the capitalists are up 10%, as are the wealthy. Good news, the global economy is doing well and is having a positive effect on our GDP. Tonight, angry classic car salesman Timothy explains how this government's disastrous car emissions limits policy is wrecking their once thriving business. Timothy may have to close his 25-year-old business after government policy made the cars he sells virtually worthless. Another vote lost for the Party of Change. Tune in for our special report. Oh good, I'm glad this is here. Okay, we're gonna do a little bit more car emissions. Popularity of voters, it's there, it's popular. We're doing 2 points on that, so this is what I think, Timothy. I'm sorry that your classic cars are not being sold, but we have the environment to save and people's lungs and other things. The election is drawing near. We have currently 16,490,609 members for the Party for Change. Our membership is the largest by a most notable margin. Poverty is down. That's all I care about. Pollution is blinking at me. Bus subsidies. Lowers unemployment. Traffic congestion and pollution can be reduced by encouraging people to travel by bus instead of car. It can be an expensive option though. Some motorists may resent a transportation system that they do not use being subsidized. We're trying to reduce gridlock. That was a problem. We're also trying to reduce pollution. So I'm going to raise this to high. And I'm going to apply some changes. We have 0 political capital, and they're probably going to force us to do the next election. So while technically we should not be allowed to be re-elected as president, let's see how this goes. This is our election. Let's hit that button. Election results. Start the count. Party for Change. Look at all those non-voters. Nobody's voting for the Dominion? What's up? Okay, let's take a look at the vote analysis. So we had a decent turnout. Do you want to play another term? The election is won, but you have not taken the trouble to change the law on executive term limits. So sadly, this is the end of your career. Someone else will have to run the party for the next term. If you really want, you can keep playing anyway in their place. Try to find time to extend the term limit this time. Now, we did pretty well as the President of the United States. Feel free to leave comments in the comment section below if you want to continue with this series, how you're liking it. Please be kind on any of your comments. But I'm going to end the episode here, and we are going to retire in glory. Unlocked an achievement. Subsidy Sam. If you wanted to get something done, you subsidize it. That seems to be our new national anthem. Perhaps you should subsidize anthems too? Have we tried subsidizing writing of the achievement descriptions? Might be an idea. Thank you so much for stopping by our Crooked House. If you like what you saw, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow our future episodes. It really helps us out. I hope you enjoyed our series on us being the President of the United States. Perhaps we will take up another country in a future episode. Have a great week. See you soon.